This is an animation done by Johnny Harris, and this is an animation I did in Davinci Resolve. No expensive software, no expensive plugins needed, and at the end of the video you will be able to do this animation as well. Oh, and if your system is not capable of handling these type of animations and your Davinci Resolve is constantly lagging out while you're sitting there watching the beach ball rolling around, I'm gonna tell you at the end which settings you should enable to make your animation process less frustrating and painful. But back to the animation. First, let's look what we actually will see. Right away, we see that the background map consists of a plain color with the world map on top of it. Most likely the world map is straight up pulled from GeoLayer, which is only available for Adobe and costs more than the studio version of Davinci Resolve. We also have a label that highlights the country we are talking about. In this case, it's the USA. In my case, I chose Switzerland, and the country itself is highlighted in this half-transparent overlay in white. From the central point, we have all these lines going out, each ending in a dot, and the dot itself finishes its animation slightly before the line arrives at its end. If you take a look at the whole picture as one, you see that there is a slight blur effect around the edges of the frame, and that the highlighted country has some sort of slight soft glow to it. With all the knowledge, we can now start animating. In order to recreate this animation, we start by importing the world map, which I already have saved as a Fusion composition on my computer. Since creating the map from scratch every time is a huge nightmare and takes forever. I did it once, so I reuse the map all the time. The world map itself is a huge composition containing every country and its islands, which hurts the performance of your computer quite a bit. In order to speed up the animation process, we delink all other continents and only focus on Europe right now. We reconnect the other continents later, and all the style changes we did to Europe will also be applied to them. Currently, all the different countries have different colors to distinguish them from each other. To get all into one color, we select the S-Chain Style node, which turns all the countries into one color. To get the borders, we get an S-Outline node and another S-Chain Style node and connect them with an S-Merge node on top of the map itself. We adjust the thickness and the color of the lines, and the world map is done. For the plain background, we import a background node and connect it to the media out node. I'm not a huge fan of a plain background, so what I would like is to give my background a little bit of a texture. So let's import an image from our assets and merge it with the background node. We also add a color correction node to make the image black and white, and 2 additional transform nodes. The first one we use to resize the image to get a maximum amount of detail out of our texture, and the second one we will use later. Note that I added 2 different types of transform nodes here, which helps me later to relink them to other nodes. On the merge node, we set the composition to multiply and reduce the opacity. In order to connect the map to the background node, we create an S-Transform node and an S-Render node and merge them with the background. Now we have the background with the map background color finished. Now we go to the highlight of our country, in this case Switzerland. So we head to the world map and open the group of Europe. In there is the node for Switzerland. We copy and paste it to our Fusion composition. We apply the same combination of S-Chain Style and S-Outline nodes to Switzerland and change them to our desired values. Which means we change the color to white, add a little bit of transparency, or increase the border thickness a little bit. To add it to the final composition, we head to the S-Transform and the S-Render node from earlier and copy them. And while pasting them, we hold Shift. This creates an instance of these nodes, which means that every change we do in one of these nodes gets also applied to all the other nodes which are linked to each other. And at every time in our animation process, they will be the same. This makes sure that our layers will always be aligned. With the map part done, we go to the label. The label consists of 2 S-Ellipse nodes and 2 S-Text nodes. one text node for the name and one text node for the line. Since the easiest way to make a dashed line is by using text node and putting a bunch of dashes in there. There are some other ways to make a dashed line in Davinci Resolve, but for this simple animation, this is the quite easiest. For the sake of this video, I assume that you already know how to animate in Fusion. If this is your first Fusion animation, I highly recommend you another video and start with something more basic. And if you're still here despite not knowing how to animate in Fusion, here is my 10-second explanation how to animate in Fusion. Make a keyframe at one frame, then move the frame, make another keyframe, change the value of whatever you like to change, apply some easing to make everything a little bit more natural looking, and here you go. Now do this over and over and over again, and you have a beautiful map animation. So, with the basic animation of the label done, the only thing that's left is the line and the dots. And since we're lazy, we doesn't want to align each dot and each end of the line separately, so we're going to do it in a way that automatically puts them together. So we are starting by importing another S polygon and an S ellipse node and merge them together with an S merge node. In the viewer, we draw a line with 3 points, something like this. The actual shape doesn't really matter, but we need 3 points. With the S ellipse node, we link width and height to each other and resize it to something that is more feasible. Now for the tricky part, we go back to the S polygon node and select the entire polyline and right click and select Publishing Path Points Enabled. And finally, Publishing Points. This lets us entangle other nodes to the value of our polygon points. We head to the S ellipse node and connect the X and Y offset to the point 2 of our polygon. Now we can see that our dot has jumped to the end of the polygon line. If we now move the end of the polygon line, the dot follows us around. Now we can select the 3 nodes and copy and paste them, and for every new line we can move the polygon into its new shape, and the dot should follow us around every time. We now have the basic graphic of our animation done. Since this tutorial is not about how to make good graphics, I will speed up the footage here while polishing the graphic quite a bit. I'm in no way such a good graphic designer like the team of Johnny Harris, and there are way better people on YouTube that can explain to you what goes into a good graphic than me. Now we have something that is a little bit more pleasing than before, and we can go to the finishing touches. In order to get a blur around the edges, we apply the Gaussian blur just before the media out and limit its effective area on the edges with a polygon mask. For the soft glow, we head to our Switzerland branch and apply the soft glow right after the render node. Here you see why we build everything in different layers, instead of building all in one as render node. It allows us to apply effects like soft glow, drop shadows, and whatever other shenanigans you want to do with your animations, just to one part of the animation, not to everything you see. Since all the transform and render nodes are an instance, all the different layers should behave the same way. The only things that is not linked via an instance is our background texture. In order to connect that, we open the second transform node and add this expression. Linking an S transform node and a normal transform node to each other is a little bit tricky, since both behave slightly different when it comes to X and Y offsets. To make it work, we have to account for the aspect ratio of our timeline as well as the pixel ratio between our Fusion composition and the image of the texture. But if you set it up correctly, it should move the same way. For scale, this is much easier since both behave in the same way. Plain linking to each other is enough. Now, with everything set up, we now can go for animation. Right away, I assume you know how to animate the lines and the dots and everything, and I will not go into that. For the 2D zoom out of our map, we head to the S transform node and change the X and Y offsets and the scale, while roughly keeping Switzerland in the middle. If everything is in a proper instance and linked to each other, everything now moves in the same way, like we only apply one transform node to everything. Since all this transformation is done in the shape environment instead of in the pixel environment, we always keep the highest sharpness possible. For the 3D animation, I use a combination of the transform node and an actual 3D camera. It may sound complicated, but if you consider that our image plane is also rendered out in a 4K resolution, the same as our Fusion composition, If we would only use the zoom in our 3D camera, we would lose the sharpness our shape nodes would provide us. So for my 3D animations, I adjust the rotation, the X and Y offset, and the zoom all in the S-Transform node, while doing the panning, tilting, and some rotation in camera. This should keep the highest quality possible at any time. If done right, you do not notice that we actually move two different things at the same time, and it looks like we only move the 3D camera. With the camera animation done, we reconnect all the other continents and leave Fusion. We render everything out in place so that we do not have to rely on our computer to render everything real time while we're editing. So for any animation work, I recommend you to put your playback resolution to 1/4. This reduces the resolution this preview image has, and therefore also the amount of rendering our computer has to do. If you have a lot of this space available, you also can enable the Smart Cache option. This allows your computer to cache everything in the background while you're editing, but it costs you a lot of disk space to do so. So I hope this tutorial was helpful to learn how to animate maps like Johnny Harris do, and I really want to thank him for making his amazing videos. They are absolutely beautiful and gorgeous to watch. And a lot of my own animations are inspired from his animations. So I can't thank Johnny enough for that. And I also want to thank you for watching, and I wish you happy animating.